Your Grace, my Lord Bishop, the Vice Chancellor, and the principal officers of the university, my colleagues, the National Chairman of the All Progressive Grand Alliance, APGA, member, Federal House of Reps, former member, and the former member of Anambra State House of Assembly, and the officers who have come with me as well. The lecturers, professors and lecturers of the university, I think it's quite appropriate for me to say my fellow students. I don't know what you are called. At the University of Nigeria, I would have said lions and lionesses. I don't know. Is that the great veritas, or I don't know what you are called here? I'm really quite excited to be here, even though I'm still struggling to keep my eyes open. Up until last night, I was telling Professor Ositobu, Professor Kwanashe and Professor Ositobu, who happen also to be council members. It's really a great pleasure. I drove to this place with Professor Ositobu, and I was telling him in the car, even while we were driving, I had my laptop. I was still writing, and that's why I've come up here with my laptop, because I'm still writing. I told him it was last night I made up my mind about the topic to talk about. And so, if I sound very incoherent, totally unorganized, forgive me. It's in the nature of the job that we do today. Running from pillar to post, you agreed to give a lecture, and then 1,001 other things keep intervening. You don't even find a minute to do so. And then you have to show up, and they say, even if you show up, just blab through. So I'm going to just blab through here. Last night, I finally made up my mind on what to share with you today. And tentatively, maybe it might still change when I go down. I said, the title is, Let Us Make a New Deal for Nigeria. But before I get into the meat of it, this is supposed to be a convocation lecture. And so within the audience, you have got graduates, those who are about to be issued their certificates and so on. Probably some have come from various places where they are doing their national youth service and so on and so forth, and some just about to graduate. I will have some message for you as well. But let me just read strictly what I have managed to scribble down. Your Grace, ladies and gentlemen, this university is a promising, unique experiment in Catholic higher education. And I am glad to celebrate with you on this 13th convocation ceremony. About 2014, I led a discussion on the financial sustainability of this university under the auspices of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of Nigeria's Finance Committee. I am therefore thrilled to learn that the university has not only grown phenomenally over the past 10 years in every aspect, but has become a real center of excellence. I just watched briefly here some demonstrations. Quite thrilled. I saw the one with asking for potential investment of $50,000, and you will have a return on investment of about 300% in 3 years. And I was talking to people around me and say, I think we might get out here and go on fundraising. That might be my retirement fund, so to speak. So I want to encourage you to become a real center of excellence. And let me salute the vision of the founding fathers, as well as the hard work and determination of the successive management of the university to bring it to this spectacular stage. Yeah? And let them not put it off again. Yeah. Huh? Um, Hello, are you there? Yeah, just to remind you, even though you are at Veritas, you are still in Nigeria. Let me use this moment to congratulate all the, I understand, 800 graduating students for having been found worthy in character and learning to deserve the degrees of this university. I've said congratulations. Maybe in a moment we'll know whether it is congratulations or commiserations. And I will come back to this later. Like I said at the beginning, 2 days ago I was discussing with your Vice Chancellor, Reverend Father Professor Hyacinth Ichoku, who has told you a story of when I was his own lecturer. But I must say, this university must be very, very lucky. And you, the students and graduates, you must have been lucky to have him as your Vice Chancellor. One thing I can say, and I hope he has been able to transfer this to this place, I remember that in his class, in his set then, I had to set up a special team. That was the era when we were beginning to see this massive cheating by students during the exams. And we had to set up what was called the integrity group. And Prof. Ichok and a few of them happened to be in the integrity group. They were the ones who were also very angry, who never wanted the other students to cheat. And then during the exams, I will intersperse them within the crowd. And if there was anybody cheating around any line, if I showed up, if the person is by the right-hand side, the person will wink with his right eye. If the person sitting on his left was cheating, you wink with your left. And I will just walk straight and stand behind the person cheating. And after a while, there was the myth that you don't cheat in Professor Soludo's class because we don't know whether he's a spirit. Once you cheat, he will just come and catch you. Thanks to the integrity group of which now Professor Ichoku was a member. And I want to believe that the same discipline and integrity he must have brought to bear on the affairs of this university. Thank you, Prof. Graduation speeches must have become a cliche now. I am not sure I remembered what was said at my own graduation lecture, nor even who delivered it. In some, graduation lectures have become motivational speeches on how the fresh graduates should seize the moment and conquer the world, with a litany of principles and practical guides to successful living. There are dozens of self-help books, and with phones in your hands, you can Google and educate yourselves even better. Or better still, with variants of artificial intelligence platforms, AI can help you piece together a better to-do list for fresh graduates. So increasingly, graduation speeches might become a waste of time for everyone. I would therefore disappoint you, since I will not rehash those how to succeed homilies here. To be honest with you, I'm actually pleasantly surprised. I was expecting almost a near empty hall because people don't go for lectures these days. Huh? So, commendation. I want to commend all of you who have attended. And I have you hostage now for the next few minutes. For me particularly, what should a state governor at this moment in Nigeria, where governors are largely the butt of many jokes, be telling fresh graduates? Second, my generation of the 1960s, 1970s, and even older ones constitute what I describe as the limited edition, end of quote, generation. We are the limited edition generation. Someone noted that we are the last generation to listen to and take care of our parents, and the first that are forced to listen to and even take care of our own children until death. So, I just wonder whether we should now reverse the roles. You do the talking while I do the listening. Except if you are prepared to endure this boring thing, then I say, just hang on. But as I stand before you today, my dear friends, the graduates and fellow students, I feel some parallels between my own graduation time and yours today. Yes, I graduated 40 years ago in 1984. And I recall the hope and despair we all felt as we came from our various postings for National Youth Service for the convocation ceremony. The military government then was groping for answers to Nigeria's myriad and seemingly intractable social, political, and economic problems. It was the year of severe austerity measures, with long queues for the so-called essential commodities such as rice, salt, milk, vegetable oil, etc., as well as rationing of foreign exchange. In fact, as at that year, 1984, you had to queue up to even be able to buy rice and so on. And if you were caught with foreign exchange, you were sent to jail. The Nigerian Electric Power Authority, NEPA, was derisively described as meaning never expect power always. If it was in those days, when the light went off a minute ago, they would have shouted, NEPA. While the less than 200,000 available telephone landlines were largely moribund, the federal government of Nigeria removed subsidy on student feeding in the universities, and the subsequent Structural Adjustment Program, SAP, came with all the SAP-related riots and protests. ASU strikes closed universities for months and years. That was the beginning of an era when jobs for university graduates could no longer be taken for granted. There was acute scarcity of basics, with rising inflation, unemployment, and poverty, while war against corruption and indiscipline was launched. This was the year we all thought that Nigeria had fallen apart. 1984. Sonny Okosun summed up the collective despair and hopelessness in his famous song then, that same year, entitled, Which Way Nigeria? And I urge you to Google and listen to that song that was sung 40 years ago, and you will see the parallel with today. You might think that that was sung maybe a year or so ago. Then fast forward to today, 40 years after. You are now graduating in 2024, the year that Nigeria finally summoned the courage to end decades of debilitating and destructive petrol subsidy, as well as forex and electricity subsidies, without the consequential shocks, including, once again, rising headline and food inflation, as well as poverty and unemployment. Flashback to what I just described was the situation in 1984. It is also the year of the big floods, which have affected 34 states and displaced nearly 2 million Nigerians. Criminality has become the new economy, unquote, with banditry, kidnapping, and drug epidemic. Much of our public service has become transactional rather than transformational, and it is increasingly becoming difficult for people to render service except if it benefits them personally. The quest for money as an end is deafening, and for a growing percentage of our youths, their motto in life has become get rich young or die trying. Have you heard that before? Okay, you have had it, but I'm sure you are not the ones who have that motto. For many, it is increasingly difficult to maintain balance, especially in a culture where virtue has little currency. The global market trends are such that only those who have scalable skills and continuously innovate and adapt will survive. The United States has just elected Donald Trump as president with some trepidations and hopes for what it portends for the world. And soon, my dear graduates, you will face some uncomfortable truths. For starters, as I watched the presentations, I saw many of you outside there, saw your faces. For starters, very uncomfortable to tell you, much of your dream jobs are not there. And about 80% of you will not practice what you studied. Okay? Just hang on, put on your seatbelt. It is scary, and I am not sure how adequately the university has prepared you for survival in chaotic times. As I draw the parallels between my time of graduation and yours, I am not sure whether to say congratulations again or commiserations. But what you make of the current situation depends on whether you see it as a challenge or an opportunity. For me, Nigeria remains black man's greatest opportunity. And we'll come in a second. For our graduates, the next 1 year of National Youth Service may be the year for resetting. You will meet new people, you will stumble on new ideas, good and bad, and you may even try some adventures. One day a week, you will have what we used to call a day for, quote, community service. Make that day count. It might be your rehearsal for selfless public service. Start with volunteerism. Volunteer to serve at every opportunity. Do something good for the benefit of society from which you do not expect to be paid. It is a pivotal year for you in your life, your balcony moment, as they will say in business schools, and you must make it count. During my own youth service at the then University of Ife, now Abafemi Awolowo University Ife, I elected voluntarily to attend all the MSc classes in the Department of Economics, although I was not a registered student. And perhaps, eventually, part of the impetus for me to resign from Coopers and Librand after 5 months to go back for postgraduate students studies as a full-time student may have come from my NYSC experience. My tailor, I told you, many of you will end up not practicing what you studied. My tailor here in Abuja, Mr. Adekunle from Osun State, is a graduate of geology from the University of Maiduguri. He sold used clothes during his NYSC in Akwa Ibom, and from there learned tailoring during the same service year. Today, he has, I just confirmed that 2 days ago. Today, he has more than 150 tailors, 30 graduates in management positions, and other staff, all totaling a little over 200 working for him. He studied geology. He is now my tailor. And an employer of labor. I can cite over 100 similar examples. In fact, the one that sold this one that I'm wearing, is not only a lawyer, he actually resigned from his job as a magistrate. He resigned from his job as a magistrate to set up a tailoring company. Today, his tailoring thing, I think they have a branch in Enugu, head office in Enugu, in Lagos, and in Abuja. I think many even more. Even in outdoors, even shoes, and so on and so forth. So, thus, my dear graduates, what happens in this 1 year of your national service might determine whether Nigeria ends up as half empty or as a half empty or a half full glass for you. Still on your personal survival, let me add a little digression. Many of you probably only studied or read seriously while preparing for examinations and believe that henceforth the torture is over. We used to say the same thing. In our case, in our times, there used to be the almighty June. And after June, after our degree, I know somebody, after our last exam, he just took his beak and broke it. Said, that's it, it's finished. I have bad news for you. Your bachelor's degree, BA, might in the end mean begin again. In today's world, there is a huge connection between continuous learning and earning. If you stop learning, you start decaying. And you can sum up in a slogan, learn more to earn more. I've heard several of the richest people in the world brag about how many books, how many non-fiction books they read in a year. And I will not say anymore. So as you venture into the uncertain world, dear friends, our fresh graduates, you will need all the help that you can get. You will need all the networks and partnerships you can get. Success in life is not just about what you know, which is what they have taught you here, but even more so about whom you know. As the saying goes, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. You need people, keep the networks, keep the friends, make new ones, know new people. So you will need the help of others to get ahead. Soon you will start looking for jobs or other help from people to jumpstart a new life. For some decades, I have always had young people approach me to help them find a job. And when you ask them, what do you want to do? A common answer has always been anything. Anything. Can you help me? So what do you want to do? Anything. And of course, let me say, anything cannot take you anywhere. Because as the saying goes, if you don't have a destination in mind, any road will take you there. So my only tip to you on this occasion is to always seek intentionally to add value. Before you approach someone for help, there is a minimum investment or preparation you must make to be ready to be helped. When you approach people, start with what value you will bring to the table, how you intend to help them. This might sound counterintuitive because you are seeking for help. Paradoxically, that is also how you make money. I was very glad seeing the presentation before we came here. They didn't just finish the presentation and tell us, give us money, help us. They had a value proposition. They said, invest, and I will give you back what? Value. You will get 300% return on investment. I saw that ROI. And when you have figures, that's what my friends will tell you. And I think that's what your Vice Chancellor said. When I don't pass through numbers and fail to remember. I saw that ROI is 300%. And I remember that. So you started very well with value proposition. You are not just asking the audience, come and help us. You are proposing value. Making money cannot be an objective. Adding value is what makes money. Think of it for a moment. The richest people in the world, that is those who got rich through enterprise, not through rent or criminality, are those who set out to solve specific problems for society and money followed them as a reward naturally. Think of the inventors, the software developers, the industrialists, developers who set out to connect people socially, like Facebook, Twitter, and so on. The industrialists, the consultants, the tellers, the traders, or anyone seeking to create value for customers, and how money followed them consequently. So the next time you approach someone for help, my dear graduates, start by telling them what you can also do for them, and you will see that they are more likely to listen to you than if you approach them for charity. When you are going to apply for a job, spend time to research how you can help to improve the fortune of the company. Instead of just, quote, applying for a job, help me, give me a job. Write them a proposal on what you can offer, and you will see the difference. I want you to try this. Next time when you approach people, start by saying, I can help you do this and that and that. You will see somebody saying, come on, let's talk more. But when you get on to say, help me, you are asking for charity. 9 out of 10, you'll probably not get it. But when you come with value, 9 out of 10, somebody is going to say, come in through the door. Try it, and we can compare notes in time to come. Sorry, I veered into the advisory, which I promised not to get into. But to proceed much further to our graduates, beside your personal thing, let me share some interesting statistics that may jolt you to some other action beyond your personal survival. And without a doubt, the first need of man is survival and safety. Maslow prioritized human needs as physiological needs, them which include air, food, drink, shelter, clothing, sleep, and health. Then safety, love and belonging, esteem, and self-actualization. Again, the reality is that given Nigeria's current income distribution, more than 60% of you may not go beyond satisfying the first need, and which is physiological needs. When I was governor of the central bank, we had a study that gave us a casual inference about income distribution or inequality in Nigeria beyond the Gini coefficient. Listen to this. We looked at all the millions of bank accounts in Nigeria, and we divided them between those that had 300,000, balances of 300,000 and below, and those with over 300,000. You know what we discovered? Do you know? 92% of the millions of depositors in Nigerian commercial banks had bank balances of 300,000 or less. 92%. But this same 92% of depositors controlled the total sum of money in their bank account, if you pull them all together, constituted just about 7% of the total deposits. Why the 8% whose balances were 300, over 300, controlled 93% of the total deposits? I understand that a similar exercise was repeated several years later with a threshold of 500,000 and the distribution was largely unchanged. Someone can crudely interpret these statistics, this to mean that about 8% of our population controls 93% of income, while 92% of the people controls just about 7% of income. Crude as the statistics may seem, it tells 1,000 stories and highlights the context of a society in which our new graduates must thrive and excel. I know many of you will already be casting and binding and praying that it is not your portion to end up among the 92% or among the many that may remain unemployed or underemployed for several years after your national youth service. The point here is that if we all do not work to alter the meta-level architecture that produces such outcomes, such a very skewed outcome for our society, much of our efforts at individual survival might be circumscribed. And this brings me to part of my core message to you today, dear friends, and that is that the current situation in Nigeria is not destiny. Everyone, I mean everyone, including you, the fresh graduates, can and must do something about it. Nation building is too serious a business to be left to the politicians or public servants alone. And it is this call I make to you. That's why I had to apply for this new job. I'll come to that in a second. A new social contract with basic socio-economic rights is possible in Nigeria. And luckily, you are graduates of Veritas University, whose mission, broadly interpreted, is to mold new Nigerians that will create a new Nigeria. And let me bore you by reminding you, as you leave this wonderful premises of the Veritas University, reminding you of the mission of your university as boldly stated on your website. Quote, I love this. On your website, you state that, quote, the mission of Veritas University is to provide these students with an integral and holistic formation that combines academic and professional training with physical, moral, spiritual, social, and cultural formation to help of Christian religious principles and the social teachings of the Catholic Church. Continues. Based on Christian inspiration and Christ's sacrificial witness, the university shall promote authentic human and cultural development, modeled on the person of Christ, and shall champion the cause of justice and uprightness in society, work to empower the weak and the marginalized, and promote dialogue and collaboration in human relationships at various levels and among various cultures and religions. Thus, graduates from the Veritas University, Abuja, after successfully completing their studies, should be able to use the knowledge for the upliftment of themselves and the Nigerian society, end of quote. Wow. The Vice Chancellor, members of council, members of the university. The public purpose mission of your university, my dear friends, is a bold statement of progressive social thought. Combine the Catholic social teachings with Rick Warren's book on, quote, the purpose-driven life, and lest with Chapter 2 of the 1999 Constitution of Nigeria on the fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy, and you have a robust progressive ideology and manifesto. I pray that these three documents can be mandatory readings in one of the general studies courses of your university. If you are students and Nigerians, take them as their compass in pursuit of private and public good. A new Nigeria will indeed be on the way. These documents motivate us to a life driven by purpose above self and remind us that to serve is to live. Selfless public service is the greatest form of philanthropy. I'm in love with pragmatic progressivism, and particularly the Chapter 2 of our Constitution, which provides a compass to a competitive and yet humane and compassionate society where no one is left behind. It seeks to establish the social contract between the state and the citizens, although this social contract is adjudged to be non-justiciable. In other words, you couldn't go to court to enforce several of these rights and entitlements and rights specified in Chapter 2 of our Constitution. It's my view that making much of these aspirational contents of Chapter 2 of the Nigerian Constitution justiciable will create a new generation of Nigerians who feel a great deal of gratitude and therefore fired by intense sense of nationalism and patriotism to want to give back to society. Increasingly, ladies and gentlemen, I meet many young people who argue that they do not feel any sense of obligation or duty to the country. They do not feel that the country has invested in them to demand patriotism and duty to country. Unlike my own generation, the nation did not offer them qualitative and tuition-free education at all levels. Why, after pulling themselves by their own bootstraps, should they care for Nigeria that has not cared for them? That's the question that I keep getting. And sometimes it is difficult to respond appropriately without bringing God into the conversation. Often my answer is to remind everyone that if God in his infinite wisdom decided to make us Nigerians, there must be a purpose. And that purpose must be for us to contribute to his creation by leaving the country better than we met it. Oh yes, I must admit that this homily, ennobling as it sounds, is not enough. We must collectively do something to give every Nigerian a stake in the future of the country. I talked about my generation from the 70s in primary school, no tuition, nothing. In the secondary school, we were in boarding school, you only paid your boarding fees. And I remember in my second year, they brought in this double bunk beds. We're all supplied, to our schools. I can see some people here nodding who were in school in those days. They brought the beds, the double bunk, free of charge and so on in our schools. And when we went to the university, it was free tuition. And you only paid a little thing for the hostel, as it were. And then our meals were subsidized even, that it was 50 kobo per meal then. And we still demonstrated that it wasn't enough. I remember over the weekends when they served, we were protesting that the people that left before us were served a quarter of a chicken during the weekends. And we were now getting 1/8 of it. And when you finish eating, you had some rack somewhere of dessert, bananas, oranges, and so on. You helped yourself, just for the same 50 kobo. That's what we had. And I must tell you, some of us still feel a depth of gratitude. And all my life, Part of what we do in public service is to give back to the country, and we must be able to reinvent that past in some ways. My dear friends, Nigeria is undergoing a fundamental and disruptive reset. Hopefully, we have ended the debilitating scam called fuel subsidy, as well as the forex and the electricity subsidies. We have entered a modeling through phase, which we must navigate carefully. Soon, we must migrate from the destructive subsidies that benefited largely the urban elite to a productive social contract that creates opportunity for all. Again, take education, for example. I talked about that and being the beneficiaries of that and what we benefited as it were. Even subsidized meals until government could no longer afford it. If there was nothing else that the military regimes used our first and oil booms for, at least I can attest to their investment in education. And my generation will remain grateful. And for some of us, much of our life, especially in public service, is payback time. So, as we model through the shocks occasioned by the needed disruptive changes, we must sit and craft a pragmatic new deal for Nigeria, plus an emergency national infrastructure plan akin to the US Marshall Plan, plus a Marshall Plan for Europe after the Second World War. A new deal for the US was, quote, a series of programs, public works, financial reforms, and regulations enacted by President Franklin D. Roosevelt in the US between 1933 and 1938 to rescue the US from the Great Depression. Some elements of the New Deal, such as the new minimum wage legislation, the draft tax reform bill, the planned cash transfers, and several of the others, as well as the audacious Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway and Lagos-Sokoto Highway, are positive signs. But this moment calls for historic coordination between the federal and state governments to agree of the critical elements of the augmented New Deal and Marshall Plan, as well as their implementation to deliver outcomes within the shortest possible time. A key issue will be that national plan for deployment of the apparent fiscal subsidy windfall. I call it the fiscal subsidy windfall. A little windfall as a result of the removal of subsidy. I say apparent, unquote, windfall, because much of the nominal increase in fiscal revenues is largely money illusion. In both US dollar terms and real purchasing power terms, much of the revenue windfall is still far lower than in previous years. For example, a state government that received about $5 billion or equivalent of about $43.4 million US dollars as monthly from Federation account in 2007-2008 when the exchange rate was 118 naira to the dollar and the bag of cement sold for a few hundreds of naira, and of course diesel was less than 100 naira, and so on, will have to receive at least 77 billion a month at current exchange rate and prices to be restored to its value as at 2007-2008 position when it had 5 billion. But the state does not get even a third of that now. I just wanted to put this context because there is some sense of some money illusion where you hear billions and trillions, and then when you talk in terms of what can it buy, money is what money can buy. If you have to pay over 10,000 to buy a bag of cement and you still have to do drainage, you have to import your bitumen and all the kinds of things to do stuff, it's not quite that you have any major surplus in real terms, but at least even the nominal surplus, we can have a strategic plan about how we deploy it, because Nigerians are waiting. However minuscule or even non-existent the windfall in real terms, the Federation must be seen to intentionally execute a new deal that pragmatically coheres with our peculiar federalism while urgently addressing the needs of the people. And for me, beside the humongous investment to build infrastructure for the 21st century, we urgently need to prioritize our national investment in human capital to transform our abundant human resources into productive capital. In the 21st and 22nd centuries, driven by digitalization, only societies that intentionally mine their human capital will triumph. Deploying our depleting natural resources to invest in the bridge to the future, that is human capital, will not only give our teeming population a stake in the society, but also secure their future. As a country, we must aim to remember this time in our history as a moment when we had the courage to remove the negative subsidies, but deployed a significant part of it, of the windfall, to benefit our children and youths via their education and health, particularly. At the minimum, we should set a national target to bring down the out-of-school children. I hear in some states, they are even up to 60%, 50%, or thereabout in some states, out-of-school children. We should have it as a national target to bring this to zero within 5 to 8 years and qualitative tuition-free secondary education to all Nigerian children within the next 5 to 10 years, while mainstreaming selected centers of excellence for the exportable labor force. We must be able to tell in a few years' time what we have done by transiting from the debilitating negative subsidies and which other subsidies, at least, we will be able to have that investment in our human capital. That is productive subsidy, and that is the kind of subsidy we must all support and invest in, as it were. As pragmatic progressives, because I am now in the terrain, we are pragmatic progressives. I come from the All Progressives Grand Alliance. My national chairman is here. And we take this issue of progressivism very seriously. We are trying the experiment in Anambra. Within our 2.5 years in office, we have kept our eyes on creating this future we desire by focusing intensely on the people as the whole essence of development. Besides the historically unprecedented investment in transport networks, especially to communities or local government that never saw tarred roads or bridges or flyovers, our aggressive urban regeneration, statewide pipe-borne water revolution, 3 new cities, including an entertainment, leisure, fun city, and industrial city, breaking the 33-year-old jinx of giving Anambra a government house or governor's lodge, or reforming and strengthening public service, massive investment in security law and other etc. We have prioritized human capital development as our beacon to the future. We aim for human capital that is productive at home and exportable abroad. There is an ongoing infrastructure revolution in our public hospitals, building, modernizing, and equipping 326 primary health care centers in all the wards, remodeled and equipped 3 general hospitals, and completing and equipping 5 brand new general hospitals, pioneering telemedicine, building best-in-class trauma center in our tertiary hospital, as well as world-class College of Nursing Sciences, etc. But our health policy today offers free antenatal services with drugs, as well as free delivery, including cesarean surgeries, to pregnant women in all public hospitals in Anambra State. And so far over 60,000 women have benefited, and with near zero mortality. I'm told about 2 main surgeries. One had a quadruplet and one a triplet, and the quadruplet went on for a huge surgery, complicated surgery, that lasted for some hours. I learned when the woman went in for surgery, the husband ran away and put off his phone wherever he hid himself. And until after some days, he couldn't be reached. And when finally the woman had stabilized to be asked to go home, there were trepidations about the bill to come. And they were told they could go home, that Soludo has said that you don't pay anything. I saw a video of the woman crying and the sister crying uncontrollably. And I think after an hour, somebody had to fish out the husband and told him that the bill had been paid. He now resurrected back to life and came back. Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me? Okay. I think if the microphone is not working, is it working? You can hear me? Okay. I was trying to switch on to my own natural microphone if that didn't work. On education, beside the massive infrastructure upgrade of primary and secondary schools, with some migrating to smart education, we set out to end the era of schools without teachers by employing, within our first 2 years in office, a total of 8,115 new teachers. We now have free education, free of tuition and all levies in all public primary and secondary schools in Anambra. From your nursery, through primary, through secondary, up to SS3, you don't pay a dime in all public schools. We also subsidize mission primary and secondary schools by posting thousands of government teachers to their schools. And this costs the government over 1.3 billion every month to pay the salaries for these workers that we post to mission schools. We also give grants, not only to our own tertiary institutions, not only fund our tertiary institutions, but also give grants even to some mission tertiary institutions. So, come to think about it, and I want to tell you this. Within the first 9 months, I can say the bishop maybe talking to the vice chancellor and saying maybe he could come for his own grant. No, it's not for you. The grant is not for you. When you establish the branch in Anambra, you get a grant. But this is very interesting. By the time we started funding this qualitative, because it's not just that it's free education, it's that it is qualitative. We recruited the 8,115 teachers through competitive national recruitment. We did not ask you what state of origin. These 8,115 teachers come from about 18 states of Nigeria. Because the interest of the Anambra child is to be taught by the best teacher in the world, not by the incompetent teacher from his village. That is our priority. Now that public education, the quality, everything is going up, guess what? There's within the first 9 months, enrollment in all public schools went up by about approximately 20%, 18.7% in the first 9 months. I'm sure by now it's much, much higher. And out of school children dropped then to 2.9, and I am told with the latest survey now, it's probably even far, maybe driving closer to 0, as it were. It was 2.9, making Anambra the state with the lowest out-of-school children in the Federation. thanks to this qualitative education that we'll have. So, as we subsidize, currently, our investment in the youths with our innovative One Youth, Two Skills program, which the federal government has now adapted into a national curricula, has created over 5,000 new entrepreneurs, and with an additional 8,300 undergoing the apprenticeship training scheme. Ours is modeled after our unique apprenticeship system. Our own skill acquisition is that we take you, if you want to learn tailoring, we'll take you and second you to a tailoring company that is very good, and there you'll learn and so on. And after that, we teach you business skills. And with the business skills, government gives you a startup capital for you to now go and start off your own. I want to tell you, someone that was trained in one of those upon graduation, and after the seed capital we gave them, bought the machines, tailoring machines and so on. And the first contract she got was to sew uniforms for one of the schools. And now she has, I think, more than almost 10, started sewing, getting contracts. And now is an employer of close to 20 staff now, going through the first one. So we are prioritizing this in terms of now another 8,300 will soon complete, and we will also empower them to become entrepreneurs. Our innovation district, our own Silicon Valley, aims to create a 1 million digital tribe army. And so far, tens of thousands have received digital training, including coding skills, free of charge. Many are already employed in the digital space. We are very, very intentional in this drive to empower the next generation and to take charge of their own lives and move Nigeria forward. In other words, what I'm trying to demonstrate here is that for us, it's not just talk, and our experiment in Anambra is showing that this can work. We can give the children, the next generation, sufficient stake in Nigeria. Our goal, ladies and gentlemen, is to break the dynasties of poverty by making education the ladder of opportunity for the poor to break the vicious cycle. When I was growing up, the children of the rich and the poor attended the same school and taught by the same teacher. If the children of the poor were brilliant, they had a chance to do better than the children of the rich. Today, not anymore. The children of the rich now attend expensive and well-resourced private schools, while the children of the poor, especially the poorest of the poor, attend poorly resourced community and public schools. With poor learning outcomes, these children of the poor end up with no skills or opportunities and end up poor, while their own children will even end the same way. So poverty, therefore, becomes a dynasty. Once it comes, it doesn't get out, except they engage in criminality or so. All of us, therefore, must intentionally work to break this vicious cycle. A new national social contract can intentionally eliminate illiteracy and upscale the labor force within a generation. Yes, it is possible. Our experiment in Anambra, if we're able to, as we aim to achieve, and I am told we're almost there, to drive out of school children to zero in the next year or so, but I'm yet waiting for the latest survey, and we give them qualitative education, qualitative primary, qualitative secondary, the child is ready to conquer the world, as it were. And I think we should make this a mainstream nationally. And our new graduates, I welcome you that we can be part of this. By 2050, ladies and gentlemen, it's expected that there will be about 400 million Nigerians. And by the end of this century, Nigeria will be the third most populous country in the world after India and China. With an aging Europe, Europe is aging, and North America, Nigeria must opportunistically prepare to become the #1 supplier of labor to the rest of the world. Probably by then, export of labor will be Nigeria's largest source of export earnings. So, the Nigerian state, all of us, must deliberately prioritize and invest in the people, especially their health and education. We may have to rethink the current structure and model of education in the country. This is a subject for another day. Your Grace, our Lord Bishop, Vice Chancellor, ladies and gentlemen, we must now conclude. The governing elite has a state of emergency in our hands, and we must not fail the country. I am part of that governing elite. After service, globetrotting, professor, there's serving the rest of the world, international agencies, Nigerian federal government, and here in Abuja, in totality in Abuja here, at the federal level, I must have served in more than 25 technical committees, either as chairman or member of one committee or the other. I decided to apply for a job to go to my own state, to go to the grassroots there to serve, that all the theory that we have, that all the grammar that we speak, let's go down and try them out. And we're trying a few of this deliberately, intentionally, and seeing the outcomes. So I am part of that governing elite, and as a governor, of course, you know, in today's Nigeria, it's not fanciful to be a governor. Everything wrong is caused by governors and so on. But we must get it done. We must get our hand dirty to get this. We must not fail this country. Every citizen is called to duty. God did not make a mistake in making us Nigerians. To our young graduates, the Veritas University has imbued you with knowledge, skills, and the social thought to mobilize you for public good. The future you seek, my dear friends, is in your palms, and only those who plan can control that future. As I look into your eyes today, I can see hope. I see a little bit of despair, but I urge you to see the Nigerian glass as half full, not half empty. Yes, Nigeria may not have offered you much, but in fulfillment of your divine purpose on earth, you will be expected to give more than you have received. I therefore urge you all to show up and participate in shaping the destiny of this nation. We are all Nigerians, and this country belongs to all of us. We are all birds of passage, but each of us must account to our Creator what we did while at our pilgrim post here on earth. As I look around, I do not see many of the doyens of Nigeria's first, second, and even third republics. Let no one tell you that you are the leaders of tomorrow. Are you hearing me? Let no one tell you you are the leaders of tomorrow. Listen to this. That tomorrow is here. Take it and shape it so that Nigeria can realize its manifest destiny as the greatest black power and the leader in the 22nd century. My dear friends, may your road be rough, and let us get it done together. God bless Veritas University. God bless all of you, and God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.